Days in Washington meeting with key players in the Trump administration and in Congress as the calendar inches closer to the August 1st deadline to stave off a 35% tariff on Canadian goods.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he has struck his biggest trade deal yet, and he's agreed to a trade framework with the European Union, announcing tariffs at 15% on European imports rather than the initial threat of 30%.
Overnight, a fifth of America's steel supply simply disappeared. With one move, Canada essentially cut off its steel exports as soon as President Donald Trump abruptly raised import metal taxes by 50%. Before the morning coffee was even brewed, that one nocturnal maneuver ripped a multi-billion-dollar hole in Detroit's assembly lines. Pipelines, pickup trucks, and even Pentagon projects are currently vying for the raw steel plate that was once freely transported across the border. Please click the like button before we start. It enables us to circumvent YouTube's algorithm. The order from Ottawa is straightforward. Canadian steel should remain in Canada. The federal government, Canada, is being forced to rely on domestic metal for its own projects as a result of the government substantially reducing the amount of steel that can enter the nation duty-free. To safeguard British mills, Prime Minister Mark Carney has pledged to crack down on the influx of low-cost foreign steel from abroad. North of the Great Lakes, Canada's billion-dollar green energy facilities and future employment are powered by every coil of steel it hoards for its own use. However, this trade battle intensifies with each ton held back, posing a threat to throw Washington's own protectionist shield back toward Main Street, USA. Please click the subscribe button before we proceed. It greatly aids in the channel's expansion. Is President Trump's America First policy effective, ultimately giving Canada the upper hand in the supply chain of North America? A twist to this story will be revealed later, so stay tuned. One that arises from the collision of all that missing metal with an unavoidable spike in demand worldwide. There was no mishap or logistical error causing that missing steel. It was an intentional act of retaliation. On June 4, 2025, shortly after midnight, the White House increased tariffs on all foreign steel slabs from 25% to a crushing 50% by using its Section 232 national security powers. After calculating the calculations, Canadian mills saw only red ink. The day Trump's 50% tax went into effect, big manufacturers like Al Steel stopped any train cargo headed for Michigan. Before Ottawa could take on Washington, one executive openly referred to it as an act of self-defense. The response from Ottawa came in the middle of July. Prime Minister Carney declared a new tariff rate quota on Canadian steel exports on July 16, 2025. Simply put, Canadian steel producers can export to the U.S. duty-free up to their 2024 tonnage. But any shipments that exceed those from the previous year now have to pay a 50% matching surtax when they depart Canada. Carney also announced a $1 billion Canadian fund to increase domestic manufacturing of green steel. Suddenly, there is a supply shortage in the U.S. equal to the total output of Canada. Approximately 6.6 million net tons of steel were bought by American consumers from Canadian mills last year. Approximately 25% of all steel imported by the United States. A large portion of that supply is now essentially off the table. Prices changed right away.